Hello and welcome to Opening Bars. This is a song which I have wanted to play and share for quite some time. To me, it is one of the most moving musical performances of all time, and I am not saying that lightly. And that is what this channel is really all about. What makes something musical, and what are the characteristic qualities of that word? Released in 1988, this song fared poorly on the pop charts compared to other tracks on the hugely successful Faith album, but it did climb to number 1 on the adult contemporary chart, likely because of its jazz ballad sensibility. From a production point of view, the instrumentation is sparse and typical for the genre. A piano, acoustic bass, guitar, drums, and a small brass section in the bridge, all supporting Michael's outstanding solo vocal performance. We can talk about his artistry all day, the incredible vocal range and timbral control, his attention to detail, the mastery of rhythm and timing, all of which is clearly on display in this recording. But what I want to focus on today is the pianist for this piece, the legendary Chris Cameron. I have to confess, I tracked a countless number of takes to try and get these 4 short measures to feel just right, and I still think I have come up short. Chris's playing is just that musical. Let's talk about that. But first, as always, we'll look at a harmonic and rhythmic analysis. Here we'll be using the treble and bass clef on a grand staff, 3 flats, and a tempus imperfectum time signature, which for us means 4/4 common time. The opening chord is a full E flat major, which is our tonic 1. In the next bar, there is an E diminished 7th passing chord, you could say, leading to F minor 2. And then a stunning secondary dominant 5/7 flat 5 in second inversion, leading to a definitive 5/7 of 1. The melody employs a couple of interesting embellishments, notably the C appoggiatura 6 in the first measure, which is reiterated in measure 2 over the diminished chord. That's, compositionally speaking, very well crafted. Then in measure 3, a B flat is used twice as a passing tone. I really admire too the inner voice leading, the E flat to D flat, C, C flat, and then the implied B flat. There is heavy pedaling in this opening, and some vintage reverb applied as well, so the harmonic cloud is really quite soft and misty. Let's talk about voicing for a moment. Here is a spectral view of these opening bars. Notice the measure 1 E flat major is full and tightly bound. See how the topmost note is a G, but the harmonic B flat really rings. Measure 2 is also a full chord. Interesting how the B flat is almost invisible in the mix, yet is clearly represented here in this view. And then the F minor. Notice if I play this with the additional F4, how much duller it is, as it unnecessarily clutters the frequency spectrum. Played without the F4, This transparency really then allows the F7 flat 5 of 5 in second inversion to shine with the crunchy major second above and allowing the A flat to carry over to the expected dominant 7th of the tonic again. These little voicing details are a crucial element of not only jazz, but of understanding and mastering the harmonic frequency palette. Now let's talk about the rhythm. You can see that the piece is notated in common time. In the first two measures, we have a half note and a triplet over 2 beats. Measure 3 adds a triplet over 1, leaving the triplet over 2 to repeat as before. And measure 4 keeps the first half rhythm of measure 3 and settles on the half note to close. This too is also very well crafted, offering rhythmic momentum and resolution in such a short period of time. Added to that, what makes this extra special are the tied notes, which de-accent the beat to leave room for other musical elements. I think one thing we can work on here is moving in and out of triplets. I would work on an exercise to play 2 quarters and then a triplet over 2 to a metronome in triplets in 1. You can count this as 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2. Start with a modified scale. And then maybe randomize. Add in some triplets over 1 as well. So when you are practicing this song, I would insert the missing beat. In other words, eliminate the tied notes to help you get in and out of the triplets successfully, like this. And finally, I would release myself from relying on mental triplets for timing and allow myself to explore the freedom the quarter note pulse provides. That way, I can really enjoy the space to play with the feel of the piece, which is exactly what Chris does. One advanced idea we can consider here is the notion of playing before, on, and after the beat. Drummers might call this playing in front of, on, or behind the beat, or perhaps even on top, down the middle, or on the backside. Maybe you have also heard terms like pushing the beat, in the pocket, or laid back. Let's talk about this for a moment in context of this piece. Here we have an audio excerpt of Chris's performance of these opening bars from the album. Underneath is a track of metronomic triplets, and under that, quarter notes. And finally, a label track indicating where measures 1, 2, 3, and 4 begin. Let's zoom in on measure 1. The piano begins exactly on beat 1, as expected. Notice here that the cymbal is just a touch early, but that's not really significant here. But look closely at the triplets. See how the piano is very closely in sync with the underlying triplet feel. Let's move on to measure 2. Again, the piano falls precisely on beat 1. The triplet is again closely synced, with the last of the trio slightly ahead this time, but that too is not significant in the final product. Measure 3 is more interesting. Notice in the triplets how they surely lag, and by a fair margin. But Chris makes up for that by playing beat 1 of measure 4 slightly early. And then in measure 4, he remains slightly ahead of the beat, which makes a little room for the vocal pickup into the first verse. Now, these are incredibly small details, but it is always amazing to me how the human brain distinguishes these subtleties, and I believe that's where the tension and release, the anticipation and satisfaction reside. That's where much of the musicality lives. So I think the laid-back feel can be attributable to the tied notes into the long triplet and the lag in measure 3, but also in the cross-stick snare. It's actually played about 10% of the beat late. Now, in these opening bars, we only hear it on beat 4, but afterwards it plays more consistently on 2 and 4. Let's try an experiment. I'll play as close to Chris's original as possible, with a percussion accompaniment on 2 and 4. First, let's hear it with the snare right on top of the beat. Let's try that again, with the snare a bit late. Can you hear the difference? If not, go back and listen again. Perhaps don't try and hear the difference. See if you can feel the difference. Now I know all of this is incredibly nuanced, but this is one key element that gives the jazz ballad its particular feel. You also get this a little bit from the strummed guitar later. It takes a while for the initial attack to reach its peak amplitude, so if the strum begins exactly on the beat, it too creates its own acoustic delay of sorts. This is all made possible by the slow tempo, which allows for more space between each beat, the sparse instrumentation to let us hear clearly, the sonic characteristics of some instrumental techniques, and the fabulous musicians who can perform this. Listen to the original again on your own with these elements in mind, and also listen for the really tasty bits Chris provides throughout between the vocal lines. I hope you enjoyed your lesson today. Remember, don't just play notes, make music. Until next time, thanks for listening.